The kids have been in school for a couple of months now. That means backpacks, book reports, and bugs. If you are tired of all the sickness, we've got advice for you. We welcome back pediatrician and the author of Doing It All, Dr. Whitney Casares. Great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Happy fall, happy bug, flu season, all the things. Everyone's got runny noses for months on end. So let's start with some basic things I have questions about for you.
Okay.
Vitamins, yes or no? What ages or kids are they beneficial for?
Yep. So generally speaking, if your kids are getting a diverse array of fruits and vegetables, if you're trying to help them eat the rainbow as much as possible, not in a day, but in like a week, then your kids are going to do just fine. Yeah, lessen the pressure a little bit, right? One thing in the Pacific Northwest is that we don't get a lot of sunlight.
Yeah.
So vitamin D is really good, especially for babies who are breastfeeding, but even for kids 1 and up, I actually recommend it during the fall and the winter months for the kiddos that we see. And then the other thing is if kids have an illness, using a probiotic is a really good idea, because a lot of times if we have to use like an antibiotic, or if we have a big diarrhea illness, it's going to wipe out all that good bacteria. So we want to reintroduce good bacteria.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anything that we can do at home to keep germs from spreading if you do have sickness in your house?
Yep. So one of the biggest things is just hand washing, hand washing.
Yeah.
I know it sounds trite, it's old school, but that's because it actually works. And the biggest thing is actually the physical act of the hand washing. So you don't need an antimicrobial soap. It's just about you spending the time singing the ABCs twice as you're washing your hands.
There you go.
With warm, soapy water, and doing that as often as you can, especially after you're wiping your nose. The other thing is, if you are the one that's sick in your house, or if your kid is, you can teach them to do like the little vampire cough here, to cover their nose, cover their sneeze. That makes a huge difference.
What about masks if you do have a couple people sick at home, but a couple who haven't picked up the symptoms yet? Are they helpful to keep it from spreading in your own family?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's funny is prior to COVID, we would have thought that's totally crazy.
Crazy, right?
But now we're also used to masks that you probably have a bunch lying around.
Totally.
Go ahead, use them. If it's no big thing for you or for your family, absolutely, that's going to help you.
What about hand sanitizer versus washing hands?
Yeah, so I always go for hand washing as much as possible, just because I want to reduce irritation on the skin, and also because I want to physically remove a lot of those germs, and that comes from the extended time. In a pinch, of course, hand sanitizing can be great.
Have it in your purse, have it on the go, moments where you don't have access to a sink.
Sure.
Those moments happen. What about throat issues, when to worry about strep, what to look for and monitor in your kiddos?
Yeah, so most of the time, if someone comes in with a sore throat into my office, a lot of times parents will think that it's strep, but it's actually just part of a cold virus. A lot of times you'll start with a sore throat, and then a couple days later, it will lead to more of that runny nose, congestion,
it's like
headache.
the first red flag warning that something's coming.
Exactly. Strep usually is characterized by a higher fever, sore throat, tummy ache, and headache. Not always, but those are the big things that we look for. And in most pediatrician offices like mine, we can do a test and have an answer for you within 20 minutes or so. So I would much rather, if someone's worried about strep, that they come in and test than, you know, just to go down that strep path, because I don't want people on extra antibiotics if they don't need to be.
Sure, absolutely. Speaking of fevers, how high is too high? Are there certain numbers to watch for in certain age stages of our kids?
Yeah, so we usually say that a fever 100.4 to 102 is a mild fever. 102 to 104 is a moderate fever, and then 104 and above is a high fever.
Because I panic when I get triple digits. I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna do?
So don't panic. Actually, one of my biggest mentors in medical school used to say, fever is your friend. It just means that the body is fighting off what's happening. A lot of times, unless your kiddo is super uncomfortable, you don't even have to treat their fever until it gets to 102. If it's that 104, 105, then, you know, a lot of times we worry a little bit more, we pay attention to it. But most important is, how does your child look when they don't have the fever? So if you treat your kiddo with ibuprofen or with Tylenol, they don't have the fever and they still look like stink, that is a big deal to us. We really want to see them.
That's good to know. What about cough medicine? I still haven't really given my kids any. My oldest is 7 now. Should I keep it away from him still? And are there natural things that are just better off for them?
Yeah, good for you. I'm glad that you're doing that. So the only real substances that have a lot of evidence behind them are actually honey.
Yeah.
That has been proven to help with sore throats for sure, with colds. The other big thing that parents kind of don't give enough credence to is just getting your kid in a warm, steamy shower, because that's going to actually, not to be gross, but help melt the snot, so that way it can just run out of their nose and not back up into their ears.
It is some instant gratification too when it starts to come.
Exactly, totally. You know, and the other big thing is just because something is natural doesn't mean it's good, right? Like poison oak or poison ivy is natural, but I wouldn't rub it all over my skin.
Exactly.
So if you have questions about a natural product, your pediatrician is the person to ask.
Okay. What about these prolonged colds when your kid is sniffing or coughing for what seems to be weeks on end? When do you worry about things like a sinus infection or other things that we should keep tabs on?
Yeah, so a cold can actually last anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it could be normal to have a really long cold. That said, if you're worried, check in with a health professional. The worries tend to be for a sinus infection, if you have pain in the sinus area, if you start to have a headache, if you get a fever, if you're feeling that congestion is just like constantly there, you cannot get rid of it. Pneumonias, we worry about fevers or difficulty breathing, and same with RSV. If you're working hard or fast to breathe. So I always tell people, if your kid looks like they just ran a marathon, this is a no-go. So please let us know if that's happening.
Okay. You mentioned RSV. Another one that I've heard a lot about recently is hand, foot, and mouth. And it seems like I've just heard from friends that they've seen more severe cases. Is it on the rise? What do we need to watch for and be aware of?
Yeah, so hand, foot, mouth is always here. It's something that's actually considered kind of in our world a little bit of a rite of passage for childhood. So especially in childcare centers, you're going to see that pass around. We are not seeing more hand, foot, mouth. And actually, we're seeing less of the viral illnesses, especially right now in Portland because of the strike. The kids are home, and so we are seeing less germ sharing. What we are seeing actually is more mental health issues that are coming through the door. So one thing is just really pay attention both to illnesses for your kids in this season, but also to what's going on for them mentally. You want to make sure that they connect with friends as much as possible, get good outside air, check in with them about how they're feeling. But we really cannot forget that this is a big deal for kids to be out of school.
Stressful for parents and kids too, so check in with each other and keep an eye on things. Great to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Nice to see you too.
We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this. Perfect segue.